I'm gonna record this for you guys. Um, okay. So one thing I want to say is this is going to be the first class in a series of many. So I do the pre and post-op webinars every month, every other week, but once a month, I'm going to uh, expand on what we're starting with today. So um, I want you guys to understand that this really is a process, and and it takes time. So you have to look at, you guys have all had surgery, but looking at the statistics, and you say, okay, just somebody who is morbidly obese and loses that weight and keeps it off. And you guys have heard me talk about this before. It's less than 2%. And and what I'm going to teach you today is the piece that, and ongoing in the upcoming months, is why it's only 2%. And I don't feel like, oh, yay is me, like, hooray, I'm one of that 2%. But I can tell you from experience that what I'm teaching you is by far why I was able to and am able to be a part of that 2%, and keep the weight off, is because of this practice and really diving in. It's kind of an ebb and flow of understanding why you do what you do and then applying tools, understanding and applying. And as you do more, you go deeper and deeper in your understanding. And so, for me, I can share that it took me 4 years to really develop, a mindfulness-based practice, and um, just different tools that I became very, very consistent in, that assist me with emotional eating. So I share that basically to let you know that this is a very big topic. It's a very deep topic. It's not something that's very easy for people to explore. If it was, um, more people would be doing it, and staying consistent with it. Like you're here today, um, getting the knowledge. And some of it you're going to say, oh, well, yeah, I've heard that before. Yo, yeah, I know. But then what are you going to take and apply? That's the piece that's missing for many people, is because it's not easy to do. And so it definitely takes focus and determination to dig, because a lot of this stuff has to do with unpleasant feelings. So basically what we're going to be doing is, we're used to say, which is needed, but the external focus of, tell me what to eat, just give me a meal plan. This is what I'm very used to. But you have to say, even before surgery, it was like, how many diets had you been on and they didn't work? They work up to a point, but when the emotions kick in, or the emotional eating kicks in, all hell breaks loose, and everything goes out the window for that moment. And it's a constant cycle of being focused and conscious, and then that unconscious emotional eating coming in. And so I don't know if you're an emotional eater, and a lot of so my background is not just emotional eating, but I was a food addict, a binge eater. So I don't know if it ever 100% goes away. That's like that, I've let go of that, but it's more about, you have to have more conscious time than this unconscious emotional eating time. And as long as your conscious focus time is more, then you're gonna you might move along at a slower pace, but you're still moving forward. You're still losing weight. You're still keeping the weight off. And that's what you're looking for. So I wouldn't set yourself up to say, oh, I'm never gonna emotionally eat again. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I have not personally met anybody that's told me they've had that experience. So um, but today we're going to take and go internal, looking instead of the external of, what I should eat, when I should eat, all of that stuff is internal, and looking at, why am I eating? So, class overview, like I said, so we're going to look at the types of hunger. Mostly, this whole class is about the beginning stages of understanding emotional eating, um, why you're eating, and then, a huge part of this is awareness. This is not something like with food. When you're focused external, it's like, okay, just tell me what to do. But um, with the emotional eating, it's constant, you have to go internal and constantly look at yourself and say, why am I doing this? What's causing this? And then beginning also tools for change. And I didn't mention you guys, but throughout this, I'll go back into the questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it in the question box. And like I said, I'll go back and forth as far as looking at the questions to answer them. And this is a class I really wish, and in the future, I might set it up. Uh, oops. I might set it up where you guys can talk to, because I think that having more of an interactive class is going to be much easier and more influential for you guys too, to kind of hear what's going on with each other, and instead of just always hearing me talk. Alrighty. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at physical versus emotional hunger. And this, if you guys, I'm gonna wait a minute. I really would like you guys to have a pen and paper. I should have told you that at the beginning, because as you go through this, I really would love for you guys to walk away with learning something about yourself, even if it's one thing. So go ahead and get up if you don't already have something there, and get a pen and paper so you can write things down, because we are going to do some exercises for you to become aware. Um, and sometimes if you don't write it down, you have that awareness and then it goes away, afterwards. So it's better to write it down right while you're in the awareness. So looking at physical versus emotional. So, and because you guys have had surgery, this is um a little bit more difficult for you guys, because I mean that's part of the benefit of having surgery is you don't feel as much physical hunger. I won't say you don't feel physical hunger, and for those of you that are on the Facebook support page, you see that's people are like, well, God, I still feel hungry. And so, and to some degree, that's a good thing. I mean, because you really want to know the difference. And for each one of you, this is going to be a process, because some of you say, well, I never feel hungry. And so then it's like, okay, I just know that I have to eat. So it's very important for you, if you, because you're on this in this webinar, obviously that you identify with emotional eating. So it's going to be very important. This is like step one of awarenesses is, when am I physically hungry? How do I know I'm physically hungry? And how do I know this is an emotional thing? That's going to be step one for you guys. So physical is you have some sort of growling, you have maybe an emptiness in your stomach, but there's some way that from a physical standpoint. Now, you guys, as we go through these, I just want you guys to identify, yes, this is how I know. You might not have all of them, or you might have something else. So, and as so I'm going to go back to the questions. So as we go through this, I want you guys to share what yours is. How do you know you're physically hungry? And if you have any type of awarenesses as far as the emotional, what's your trigger? So for physical hunger, like I said, there's some sort of emptiness or growling. The thing with growling, you guys, I will tell you, is if you so we have conscious choices, which means, okay, like you made the conscious choice to have surgery, and you have this focus, and then the next thing you know, you're eating something that wasn't planned. That was an unconscious moment. So what happens, basically, your unconscious mind is a filing system. So it files everything you've ever done. So for example, and this most of the stuff I share is actually real life stuff, that I think all of it that I share is real life stuff that I've worked with different bariatric patients. But like, I was working with a lady one time, and she had gastric bypass, and she noticed that, like, when she had a really bad relationship with her father, and so she would go visit her father once a week, and but for putting herself through that, because he was verbally abusive, she would reward herself with fast food afterwards. So after she had surgery, she knew she wasn't hungry, and but what she noticed is her stomach would start to growl after she left her father's. So sometimes the stomach growling, something, it's actually saying, wait a minute, usually you feed me at this time. Usually, and so you have that memory bank that actually is not only thought, feeling, states, but it will physically change your body. And that's why I tell people it's not an easy process to know when you're actually physically hungry. If you've been an emotional eater, because you have all of that stored up. And you guys have heard me say surgery is in your stomach. So you had surgery in your stomach, which is a great tool, but we need to work on the mind. Work on the subconscious stored filing system. So this is one thinking, like, considering your options. Like, when you're physically hungry, it's a calmer thought, like, what am I going to eat? Or maybe you had already had something planned and you follow what your plan is. When it's emotional, it's specific cravings. Like, you're like, I have to eat this. So it's more of an intense, you feel almost an impulse. It's like, I have to do it right now. And this is a good way for you guys, since a lot of you don't feel the physical hunger, to notice this. Am I just eating what I've already planned to eat, or kind of nonchalantly thinking, okay, I'm getting hungry and I know I need to eat? Or is it this impulse of specific foods, like, I'm ready to go to the store and find what I want? Or do you find, well, I think it talks about here wandering around the kitchen. Physical hunger, low energy, um, the the hunger sounds, we already talked about that. Um, or this is another good one for you. I think for most of you, the big ones is thinking about how you're thinking about food. Are you able to, follow the plan you already set out for the day, or time passed? This is another one. It's like, okay, especially for bariatric patients, it's like, you know what, I don't feel hungry, but 4 hours has passed. Or if you're somebody who's only eating 2 ounces of food, then um, you you know you want to be eating every 2 hours. And actually, before I move forward, I'm going to go back here. I want to see. Um, can you guys tell me how far out you are? I'm just curious to the audience who I'm speaking to. So if you can let me know how many months out you are, that would be great. Okay, so this is good. So there's a wide range. Um, so just since I'm looking at the questions here, Teresa, um, and for those of you that are pre-op, I want to share some of this. So Teresa's 7 months, you guys, and she's sharing that she still never feels hungry. So you have that range, and then you have somebody who is feeling hungry directly, a couple weeks out after surgery. So there is a range. Everybody is different, but uh, If you're eating, see, the question of how often should I eat is really based on how much food you can get in. And like I said, if you're only eating 2 ounces of food, then you want to be eating basically every 2 hours. But if you can get your 6 ounces of food in every 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours is because you want to keep your blood sugar stable. So that's a good guideline to go by. Um, And then on this side, so the two things I would say for you guys to focus on, like I said, is your thoughts. Where are your thoughts? Are my thoughts kind of mindful? Like I know I need to eat, 4 hours has went by, or is it an impulse, like I have to have this type of food, or I have to eat right now? It's more of an instant reactionary impulse feeling, and you'll know the difference. So start to pay attention to that, and then also look at time. If you're eating 6 ounces of food, and let's say you just had dinner, and an hour later you're going for potato chips, this is an emotional event. if, if you just ate 1 hour ago, you're not physically hungry. So those are the two big ones that you guys can use. And then you look, if you're physically hungry, okay, yes, I'm physically hungry. If you haven't planned out your food, it's the choice, okay, am I going to eat healthy? Am I going to eat unhealthy? And, the longer you go with surgery, because you have to say to yourself, well, how do people gain their weight back? Well, it's not by eating, chicken and broccoli for sure. So people gain their weight back long term. It's you, and I'm really glad I think I saw up to 10 months on there. It could go up to 2 years, but you guys really have like a year window, sometimes 2 years, depending on the person. Like, you know, just hearing that Teresa's not, she's 7 months out, or was it 7 or 10 months, but and she still doesn't feel hungry. But so sometimes it can go up to 2 years, but do understand you guys have a window of time, and you want to train yourself, and this is when your tool is the most strongest. And not that it doesn't help you afterwards, but it's like you're going to get your most impact in that first year for sure, and then sometimes up to 2 years. But so let's kind of look at a 2 year window. So you want to really work on training yourself, working through doing this work that I'm going to be teaching every month. If you identify yourself as an emotional eater, because you have the most support during this 2 years. So like I told you, it took me 4 years to really, I dabbled, dabbled, dabbled until I really was like, saw that, okay, when I was really ready, like, okay, I'm sick of trying all these diets and all these things. And, and by far, this is what allowed me to lose the most weight, but to keep it off. That's the biggest thing. What I'm teaching you now is going to help you get to your goal, but keep the weight off long term. So, and then you're more likely to eat mindfully. That's the other thing with surgery. If you're doing an emotional eating event, you're much more likely to get food stuck. You're much more likely to get sick because you're in the emotion. You are not being present. The emotion is basically controlling that whole situation. So, impulse, what else do we want to say about this? We already talked about little time going by. And you're going to notice that the food doesn't satisfy you totally. You're like, you still might be wandering around the kitchen. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but it's like you eat something and it's just like you're looking, looking, looking. That's not physical hunger. If you're wandering around or you keep going to the refrigerator, like now you guys might not eat, but you notice you keep looking, looking, looking. You identify that right away. You know what? I'm in an emotional state. Just I label it. Sometimes labeling it really helps. Like, I am being emotional right now. Okay, then, okay, what did I learn? What are the plans I made for myself when I'm in this state? It's just like eating. Think about when you plan your meals out, you're much more likely to follow through. It goes up to almost like 50% because that's called forecasting, and you basically put that in your mind. So you've pre-thought out what you're going to do, and it increases your chances drastically of actually following through. Well, the same thing is with the emotional eating. As we go through these classes, the more you become aware of what's your triggers, why you do what you do, and you have a plan, like, okay, these are the tools I use when I feel like this. If it's already planned out, you're much more likely to follow through and do it. So if you identify, yes, I'm in an emotional state, it's either one. You're either looking for a temporary distraction or you're looking for comfort. So I just want to go to the questions again. Oh, shoot, I clicked the wrong button. Hold on. I just want to know where you guys are at. So when you identify with, physical hunger or emotional hunger, how do you know? What are things you already know? And while you're answering that question, Rick's asking if sleeping pills make you crave carbs. I'm not sure about that. I need to look that up. That's not something I heard of. Um, I don't think so, but I don't want to say no either. Julie, tell me more. You said thoughts, constant planning. So are you saying constant planning triggers you to want to eat more? Okay, so Sherry's noticing that if she sees something, so she sees a commercial or maybe somebody has a certain type of food, then that triggers her to want to eat it. That's awesome, Joan. So she feels drained. That's how she knows that she's really tired. I mean, she's really hungry. Yeah, so Teresa's saying, I eat things this is a perfect example. I eat things I shouldn't eat and then I feel sick. That's how I know it's emotional eating. So, um, just going back to what I told you, when you're emotional eating, there's nothing conscious about that situation. The emotion is controlling everything you do. It is not you, it's you're gone. You are gone as a person, and that emotion has come forward in controlling the situation. So exactly, for a bariatric patient, you can get sick, you can have food getting stuck, and because you're eating foods you eat too fast, you eat too much, and you're eating foods that will make you sick. Let's see. Yep, Sherry says I prowl around the kitchen looking for something to eat. Again, now that the things you're aware of, you guys, it's like, okay, I'm being emotional, or I am in an emotional state. Or one thing that really helped me is identifying I wasn't in control and I didn't like that, or maybe saying the emotion is controlling me right now. Like that was big for me, because I didn't like the thought that I was not in control of the situation. And yes, the feeling is a part of you, but they're leading the way. It's not you. uh yeah, so Julie says, and this is a really good point. She said constant planning on what's proper things to eat seems like food is always on my mind, trying to do what's right. um Yeah, there is a fine line, and I actually get this a lot. Like, people are like, I almost feel like I might get an eating disorder because I'm so obsessed with what I eat. But you almost got to look at it like, if you had a brand new job or something, you're going to do research, you're going to learn how you need to do it. Unfortunately, they're really, to change a behavior, planning, focus, going back to planning, going back to focus, talking about it is unfortunately the only way that this is going to happen. And the reason for this is so we have a conscious mind, and then we have an unconscious, or what you called your subconscious mind, which I told you your subconscious is your filing system. So you've been a certain way, you've ate for certain emotions, you've used food for a variety of different reasons, and that's all in this big fat filing system. And your subconscious filing system is a million times stronger than your conscious mind. A million times. And we are unconscious about 95% of the time. That's why we have to constantly focus on it, because you're working against something that's a million times stronger. Now, what I'm going to be working on in the next couple of months with you guys is tools to change that, tools to kind of shift and make your conscious mind stronger. So, sugar, can be uh, a trigger. And this is for a lot of people. And you guys, this is one of the things I absolutely love about, there's a lot of things I love about bariatric surgery, but as far as being a tool, but with bariatric surgery, really, like if you eat in balance, if you follow the bariatric plan where you're only having 2 ounces of something else, you don't sugar is not as much of a trigger, because you've just had your protein, you've had your healthy fat, and you've just had a few bites of something that's sweet, versus if you just sit down and eat candy, or you eat cake, or whatever, where it's just straight sugar, you're more likely to be impulsive to keep eating. Yes, Wesley says watching TV usually triggers hunger for me. That's a big one, and we're going to talk about some of these. Boredom, that's a good one. Boredom is a feeling, so that's good that you realize that. Yeah. So Julie says, I hate it when there is something easy available like a cookie and it fills you up. You know it was the wrong thing to eat. Yeah. That's the other thing, is convenience, or the feeling might be tired, or the thought feeling state. For a lot of us, the thought feeling state, and we're not aware of it, is I'm too busy. I'm too busy. There's no time. And that creates an anxiety within us. So the thought is, I'm too busy, there's not enough time, creates anxiety. And so we go for whatever's convenient. And that's definitely usually processed sugar. So that also is a thought feeling state. That's great that you are aware of that, Julie. Okay, Carol, I just joined the webinar and I have some questions because I'm really struggling lately. The past month has been particularly well, and hopefully you guys are okay if I'm reading these out loud. I really, um, uh, this is a private group, but I will tell you that, and like I said, I'm going to work on the next time. Especially I see there's, only 20 people in the group. I mean, I think 60 people signed up. But if it's a small group like this, then I can make it so you guys can talk as well instead of me reading this stuff. But for everybody else to hear what other people are going through, what other people are thinking, it's really helpful. So, but I do like to read what you're sharing. I think it's important. So Carol, do you mind telling me how far out you are? How many months out are you? But she says, I am really struggling lately. The past month has been particularly difficult, and I feel like I'm backsliding into my normal stress related and emotional eating habits. Um, yeah, so we just got started, Carol. So I'm just going through now, like what people have already identified as their triggers. So, we can, as I go through and ask questions, we're going to do some exercises. The goal is for all of you guys, to walk away with some awareness about yourself today, and then tools, that will um, help you. And it is a process. You guys have to remember this. I'm not going to give you any magic pill today. I wish I could, but this is work. This is work, and it does take focus. I open the fridge, look, then close it. Then I go back 5 minutes later and do the same thing. I know. Yep. So that's it. So you guys, as you go through these things, it's like come up with what's going to work for you. Like I said, for me, but you gotta step out. Just by labeling it, you um you step out of the feeling. It doesn't go away, but it gives you a second to step out of it. So, because if you're labeling it, that means you're observing it. Whereas is if you're reacting to it, you're in it. So part of awareness is becoming aware, and if you can look at it and then do a tool, that takes you out of the feeling. And it sounds simple, but it's not easy to go from being in the feeling, being controlled by the feeling, and then stepping outside of it. So, um, TV again, I don't mind sharing. I would love to talk if it's easier. Great. Yeah. I had surgery at the end of February. Because there's some pre-op people on here, so I think it's really important for them to walk away. I think this is great for them to see that, yeah, surgery helps tremendously. But so Carol is, what are we, March, April, May, June. So Carol is 4 months out, and you can hear she's sharing that she's really struggling with going back to the emotional piece. And that's the big piece. It's like, okay, surgery's in her stomach. I still need to work on my brain. Okay, so and you guys, if I'm going to go back and forth between the questions, and then because I see some of you guys are giving some good information, and I want to share it with the group. So basically going back, so you identifying physical and then identifying emotional. And the first thing for you guys, like I said, is come up with something that you say to yourself. Like I told you, for me, I'm like, okay, the emotion's in control right now. That was a trigger for me to say, okay, I don't want this to happen. But you might say, yeah, I'm being emotional right now, or the emotions are controlling me, but it's just important to label it. That's going to be your very first step, is when you're being emotional, you need to stop and label it as this is an emotional situation. And then it's like, okay, because what happens is your goal is to have a plan. And so let's keep going here. Oops. All right. So understanding why this is so important. So 75% of overeating stems from emotional eating. So if you are an emotional eater, that's the biggest trigger for overeating. And as you heard some of the people share, they emotionally eat and then they feel sick afterwards. And then 70% of the time we react to situations but based on unconscious feelings. And I've already talked to you guys about that. Really understanding. So I know a lot of times you guys have tried different things, but if and then you get discouraged, but understand the unconscious or subconscious mind is a million times stronger than your conscious choice to change. So don't ever look at yourself as a failure. Don't ever look, it's like it's a constant ebb and flow of becoming aware, learning, sometimes falling down, getting back up, but remind yourself, okay, who you're not the battle is between, not you, it's not about you, but the battle is between you, the conscious mind, and your subconscious filing system. And you have to say, okay, how can I turn the tides where the conscious mind is stronger and the subconscious mind doesn't have so much power. But because one of the biggest things, people give up because they feel defeated. And sometimes, again, labeling it and saying, you know what, no, this isn't me. The conscious mind wants this. What does the conscious mind want as a conscious human being? Now, what the subconscious, which is a million times stronger, wants this, but almost not identifying with it. So like when you're an emotional, realize that's your subconscious, that's your filing system. That is not the conscious human being that you are. So kind of separate them. And when you do that, it separates some of the guilt. all the like the bad feelings that come with, having a goal and then falling, as they say, maybe falling off the wagon. Okay, so let's look at the emotional eating cycle. So some of this we've already talked about. So there's some sort of trigger. You guys mentioned a bunch: boredom. Even somebody's starting to think, my sleeping pills trigger it. Medicines may trigger it. Don't don't say no, it's just me. Like really, pay attention because um oh, I apologize. I forget the person who asked about the sleeping pills, but it's easy for us to discredit ourselves and say, oh, it's just me, or oh, it's this. No, you know what? Maybe there is no research that says sleeping pills trigger cravings. But you know what? You know that it does, maybe. Maybe you explore and you realize, oh my gosh, this is what happens to me. You have to realize that like I said, even with surgery, everybody's different. How surgery affects you is different. So there's some sort of trigger, and it might be an event, like you maybe have gained a pound or two, which is really big for you guys. Like you're like, oh, and you might feel like instantly, like I'm doing something wrong. So oh, screw it. I'm just going to eat today. Um, Eating forbidden foods. That's why if you notice, like when I teach or when I post on Facebook, this is a diet mentality, and diets just don't work. And bariatric surgery is not a diet. It's a lifestyle change. So there's no such thing as forbidden foods. It's all about balance. I mean, yeah, I mean, does cake and cookies and all that stuff have a lot of nutritional value? No. But you really want to start to train yourself to not look at it as bad food. This whole good and bad concept. It's more like, what's going to be best for the situation, or um, but you're going to have those foods in your life. That's for most of us. Um, and then so you have some sort of trigger, and then it that thought, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but it starts with a thought, some sort of trigger that creates a thought in you. And then because it's an external thing that's happening, and then you process it and you put a thought to it. And that thought creates a feeling. So usually some sort of uncomfortable feelings, or sometimes it's good. Like, for me, one of my big triggers is being a part of. And for the longest time, uh, I didn't realize this. And to this day, it's gotten better, but to this day it doesn't feel great. So if I'm if I'm out and everybody else is drinking a glass of wine, then I want to be drinking a glass of wine because I associate being a part of the group with eating and drinking what they're doing. So that's something that I'm aware of. So I can say to myself, I label it. Okay, I want to be a part of the group. So what's another way I can be a part of the group? I can be a part of the group in laughing. I can be a part of the group in conversating, but I have to label it and process it so I can have a different outcome and not just be reactionary and automatically buy the glass of wine because, yeah, sure, everybody else is getting a glass of wine. But so it could be, it's not necessarily always negative. It could be a positive feeling as well. So uncomfortable emotions, thoughts, negative feelings, stress, and really stress is such a large thing. It's like, okay, what exactly does stress mean to you? Sometimes stress is, you know, you feel tired and then you eat. Sometimes stress is overwhelmed and you eat. Sometimes stress is anxiety, it's fear. So under stress falls a tremendous amount of other more specific feelings. Lack of control, that is a big one for a lot of people. Maybe you're not happy in your relationship with your spouse and you can't control other people. So it's like not being able to control a situation because a lot of times what comes from that, the lack of control comes frustration. And then we eat instead. It's kind of like an escape. And then, self-esteem, low self-esteem. So basically this thing is we have a trigger, it creates all these feelings, and then we want to escape from them. We want to feel better. We need some sort of comfort. And then we eat, we feel better for that time that we're eating. We have that temporary comfort or feel good. We've escaped. You know, sometimes I know I say like, and I know I'll say to myself, one of the sayings that I've kind of associated to help me know when I'm in this zone is I'm like, oh, Calgon, take me away. And like, and it's, I say that because my natural tendencies were to go to food. And it's like Calgon Take Me Away reminds me, you know what, there's tons of other ways to distract myself. And so again, you guys will come up with little sayings, labelings that snap you out of it. That's going to be very important for you guys to become aware of and come up with some sort of statements or labels that help you step out of that feeling for the moment. And then of course when you eat, you know, once the food is done, you come back to the present moment, and then what happens? Like, oh, I just did this. I didn't want to do that. You know, and this too, the feelings of guilt, failure, disappointment, this is the subconscious mind. This is the big million times stronger bully. This is all coming from not just that moment, but years of, you know, your attempts to reach a healthy weight. So you have to realize this. Again, when you feel like this, when this comes up, label it. You know, label it like, okay, this is the bully. This is the bully. This is the subconscious mind, you know, and, you know, are you going to listen to it or not? It's very important to identify whether you're being conscious or it's the subconscious filing system. And this all 100% is coming from the filing system. Because how many of you guys do something one time and have guilt over it? If you just did it one time, it's like, oh, I did that, no big deal. You know, you look at a baby and they fall down, they don't, you know, they get right back up. They don't care. But the guilt, because you have this filing system of failure. And then you want to feel better. So what do? We eat again. And this up at the top, you guys, eat more, binge temporarily, abandon healthy eating efforts. This is this is okay. And what's going to happen if you guys leave this class today and you really choose to focus on it, you choose to put these things into practice, you choose to ask yourself the questions, this will become less and less. So this is where there's a line here. So this last one, completely abandon your efforts. If you can just temporarily, because the more you do these exercises, the temporary abandonment is less and less. So you say, okay, I ate that cookie for that cookie, it made me sick, and then you get right back on track and you don't do that again for a couple of days or a week. Where, like, I know when I first started, when I binge ate, I I went back, I was in such this feeling of guilt and failure and disappointment, um, that I would do it for days. It was just this cycle was repeated, repeated, repeated. And you have to say to yourself, and this is for all of us, the more awareness you guys can have at each one of these stages, you do what I tell you, the labeling piece, which will help a lot, step out of it. Because you have to say, how can I step out of this cycle? You know, you're in kind of, you know, think of almost like this, uh, you know, those doors, those revolving doors, and you know, they kind of go by themselves. The motion gets going and you have to make a point to step off. And that's what's happening here is you have to say to yourself, you know what tools do I have to step off this cycle? And it might not, you know, and it might be the end where you go through this whole cycle and you do it, but you have the awareness at the end and you don't go back to this feeling of guilt. You don't allow that to take over. And so you're able to stay out of the cycle for longer periods of time and not be in where you just, for, you know, where you think about when in the past you've done things and you're just like, whatever, years. I work with people that have lost weight and gained it back, and they hadn't thought about it for years, and then they come back to it again, and they say, okay, I'm ready. We don't want to do that. You want to have your situation that you might have. Well, you don't want to, but let's say you do. You don't beat yourself up and you just refocus right away. That's what you're looking for, to get out of this cycle as quickly as possible. Um, I'm going to go and just kind of look at the questions. And I'm going to apologize, you guys. I am going to do my darndest to stick to the time, but this is such a huge topic, and when I was creating this class, I mean, I have so, this is really where a lot of my expertise lies, and I was trying to figure out how much to put in one class, but it is going to be recorded. So if you have to get off at 12, and if I'm going over, this is recorded so you can get the rest of it later. But I am going to go to the questions, and I just want to see if there's any questions at this time, any awarenesses that you guys might be having as I'm sharing. And as you guys are writing, I just want to share a little bit. So Carol, I said there's positive and negative. Carol shared, so in the past month I've moved from Hawaii to Alaska. So there's top stressors, like the top 10 stressors. And first of all, just so you know, surgery is in the top, well, it might be in the top 20 stressors. It might be in the top 20. But any type of change to your body, any type of change to your, drastic change to your eating habits is in the top 20. It might be in the top 10. I actually need to go back and look at that. Moving for sure is in the top 10. Starting a new job is in the top 10. So she's moved and started a new job. Yes. So identifying and realizing, like, okay, how many of the top stressors do I have going on? Because today it's crazy. We all want to be Superwoman and Superman, and we just think we should just keep on a trucking. And I will tell the ladies, like, for for the longest time, I mean, we're out of balance. Not just our food, but our lives are out of balance. The expectations that we have put on ourselves is unrealistic. So a lot of this is more about stepping back and not trying to be like everybody else, because everybody else is obese. The majority of our population is obese. And that's switched, just a couple years ago. And the other thing, ladies, I want to tell you, for the women on this call, forever, men have always been number one in heart attacks. Always. For the first time ever in history, women are having more heart attacks than men. Why? Our lives are out of balance. We're putting way too much on ourselves, and we look around and we say, well, everybody else is doing this. Well, the question is, do you want to be like everybody else? Do you want to be the obese person? Do you want to be the one having the heart attack? No. So you have to step back and say, I got to be different. And it doesn't feel right. And it might not look right to your friends, but doing less is better. Let's see. Okay. So Julie shared what I do about TV time. I know the entire time. I knit the entire evening, and it keeps my fingers busy and my thoughts away from the food. Find something you can do in front of the TV. Yes, and one of the exercises we're going to do is other distractions. It's one of the basic easiest things to start with. It is externally focused, but it's still a good start, because start one is awareness, and then step two is, what's my plan for that awareness that I've had. So absolutely. So Carol sharing, I've fallen for those bad habits, sugary treats to increase energy, making excuses, eating out, and this is somebody who's post-op, by the way, eating out a lot and choosing less carefully. I don't have a routine yet and making poor choices. Oh, Marilyn shares, this is interesting. She said when she's emotional and she's like, when I'm hungry, so I go to do food sampling. So you know how you can go to like Costco and stuff and sample all the, she goes around and all that food that's there, almost all of it's junk food. And that's just, one is step one that you do that. And and realizing this is not a habit that you want to continue. And she keeps sampling until she feels satisfied. Alicia's saying, for me, I feel like when things don't go right in my life, I binge eat or overeat to make up for it. Okay, this is a control thing. Things that are probably out of her control. So again, one of the things was, and it's probably big for a lot of us. It's an escape, a temporary escape, like from the frustration that things aren't working out. So, and so one of the things, Alicia, is stepping back and saying, okay, how much of it can I control, and can I control? That's going to be one deeper level, and because we can focus, you can always focus and develop skills for the things you can control that you want to be different, but there's many things that are out of your control, and that's going to take a different type of tool to work through that. uh Dawn is saying, I just realized that my weight gain has probably been from the loss of control in my life. Homework, very interesting, thanks. See, and that's what this is. That's really awesome, and thank you for sharing, Dawn. Is the very first step of this, you guys, is awareness. And hopefully you're jotting this down, because I promise you, we have these great insights in our life, and then it's like, because remember, we're unconscious. You're having conscious moments right now, and then we're unconscious most of the time. So, and then it's forgotten. So my 22-year-old daughter died unexpectedly 30 days after surgery. She had a heart attack. That's a big stressor. Yeah, and that's Teresa sharing. And so um it's just um Teresa and I have talked about this too. Um it's finding, in something like that, it's finding, like, how can this be therapeutic for me, or how can this help me? And the other thing is timing. And not that I want you guys just to let go. But what many of us do is, when we go through really hard times, like, that's huge. That's, I don't, it's just such a, I'm almost speechless about it. So it's like you go through these events, and this is life. Or, the people sharing that I'm moving and starting new jobs, and, it's like, how, and then some, like Joan, I think, shared, like, I'm tired of focusing on my food, that, it stresses her out to focus on her food. So sometimes we put the food in a back burner. And some of the tools I'm going to talk about today, I'm just going to begin to go into them. But I want you guys to know, like I said, I'm going to be teaching. I'm going to be adding on this to help you guys develop your skills every month. So this is just the first class of many, because I want you guys to have a whole toolkit, because as you play around with these different tools, you'll figure out which ones will work for you and which ones will not. Because everybody's different. And Joan shares, my husband snacks a lot, and he sabotages my effort in trying to keep the snacks to a minimum, or help. Wait. So I'm not sure if I understand this. So my husband snacks a lot, and he sabotages my efforts in trying to keep the snacks to a minimum or healthy. So I want you guys to know that, first, remember that I have been and still am where you guys are, but I don't want you ever to get offended by what I say, because so part of my job is to lovingly step on your toes. So And we all do this, Joan. So one of the very first things I want to do, and for all of you guys, if you any situation you know how I said when you're emotional eating, the emotion is in control, the emotion is taken over, and you need to identify and step back in as a conscious human being. You got to step back into that place. Um, um, so anytime you say she says he sabotages my efforts. This is a victim mentality, and there is no power in victimhood. So you have to step back and say, because remember, thoughts create feelings. So if your thoughts are from a victimhood stance, there's no power of choice there. So this is something super tiny that you could do. You can identify, my husband's snacking triggers me. But you got to take the power back. You have to take back that you are making this choice. So your husband isn't sabotaging you. You're thinking about the food. These thought feeling states, your subconscious mind is sabotaging you. And this is a big one. I have so many people that their love language with their spouse is food. So this is not even about snacking. This is about doing something with your significant other that feels good. I mean, how many of you have watched some movies and you've ate popcorn or ice cream, and who doesn't want to do that? So it's much bigger than just the snack. So Joan, I would encourage you to, and anybody who can relate, because I'm sure um, as I share these things, you guys are identifying with some of this stuff. Um, is identify what it is. One, are you physically hungry? You might be physically hungry, and you see snack foods and you eat those instead of healthy foods. So the first step is saying, okay, remember, going back to the beginning, am I hungry, physically hungry, or am I in an emotional state? Let's just go with this whole thing that's some type of love connection you and your husband do. Very, very common. And that's emotional. This is an emotional thing. So you have to say, okay, I'm wanting an emotional love connection with my husband. We usually eat ice cream together or popcorn together or whatever it is. So you now have identified what you're really wanting. And you have to say, that's where you go back and you communicate with your husband. It's like, if you can get that love in another way, or again, like I mentioned to me or mentioned about myself, I like to feel a part of. And for whatever reason, my thinking used to be I had to eat what they were eating to feel a part of that environment. And that's something I've really worked on a lot. So you have to identify it first, but definitely realize, like, you have to put yourself in the power position and take yourself out of victimhood. Um, let's see. Before the webinar ends, can you give me some good guideline for the number of calories, ounces, etc.? I know about the basics, blah, 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 blah. All right, so um, yes, this is important, but I really want to keep this mindful. So, Carol, if you can email me, or if I can send you something later, just email me today, and I'll email you later today, or we can talk on the phone. I really want to keep this about internal. At the very beginning of the class, I don't know if you were on it, I said there's the external focus of what should I eat, how many calories should I eat. Mindfulness, dealing with emotional eating is all internal. So I really want to keep this class about awareness and going inside, because these are two separate topics. So I absolutely would love to help you, but not in this webinar. So I just want to share. So husband snacking, make a cabinet only for him, and it is forbidden for you to even look at this cabinet, so you won't be tempted. Now, again, I'm reading what people are saying and sharing because I want you guys to walk away with different things. me personally, oh my gosh, if you tell me something's forbidden, I'm like, I'm going to eat it even if I don't like it because I have a rebellious personality. So this is perfect for you guys. Again, as we go through these exercises and stuff, pay attention to how it makes you feel. Some things will work, some things won't. Out of sight, out of mind. Yes, I totally agree with that. So Linda says, I have the opposite problem. I watch my boyfriend eat and it repulses me because it seems he eats so much. I find I don't want to be around him when he eats anymore and he sees that I'm pulling away. Yes, this is another thing, Linda, and it's very common as well. After you have surgery, so many people become food critics. You notice everybody else, and a lot of that, it's unconscious. It is unconscious, but like it makes you feel kind of better about yourself. And um there's a lot. I mean, I could do a whole class on that, but it's like, at least you've identified it, and that's not a, sticking, that's another topic which I can definitely help you with, but it doesn't trigger you to eat. So that's a good thing for this class. Right now we're looking at what triggers um what triggers us, what triggers you to eat. The other thing I want you guys to realize is this whole concept of um, seeing other people and being like, you're not saying it out loud, but and I appreciate, I think she even used the word repulses me. I don't know if I'm making that up. Oh yeah, she did. I really appreciate what you shared because it's so true, and I hear this all the time, and not just with significant others and friends, but even if people are out at the mall and we become judgmental. And to be honest with you, this is just a reflection of ourselves, like how much we beat ourselves up. So kind of look at the way you view other people as just a mirror in how you view yourself. So um, and a lot of times this can come at the beginning, it helps you because you're so judgmental, but usually I find that people don't work through this, it backfires on them in the long run. So it's great that you're aware of this, but it's something that you're going to want to look at and you're going to want to explore. All right. So let's go back to the class. Oops. Okay. So we talked about the cycle here. Um, Okay, so I've already talked about labeling. You got to start to label. Why do you want to label? It takes you out of the feeling. So the very first step, you guys, is awareness. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I eating? That's a process. Then once you realize, and start with one or two. If you can leave this class today saying, this is a big one for me. This is what triggers me. Know the thought and the feeling state. I think this, I feel this. Because the feeling is what you're really wanting, and food is just a temporary fix. Then you start to label it, and your brain, after a while, is an anchor. So after a while, you're like, okay, the awareness is I'm wandering in the kitchen. Bam, I'm being emotional. I'm in an emotional state. My emotions are controlling my feelings, whatever. Those will, over time, automatically, one thought will go to the next thought, will then create a feeling of, but of a different response. But remember, right now, you're in that circle. You're in that circle, and it's just going around and around and around because it's unconscious. So asking the questions, becoming aware, and labeling it helps you step outside of that cycle. That is the very first thing you need to do. If you don't do anything else after this class but that, it's huge. That's monumental. And you keep doing that, you're going to see yourself change in time. This, it's going to be a process of strengthening your mind. So, we talked about it. Am I truly hungry? Is this real physical hunger? Because again, asking questions, if you train yourself to ask yourself questions, you will, again, you're out of the emotion. Remember, The first step is to do things that will take you out of that emotion, even if it's for a brief second, because then you're not being reactionary anymore. So it's like even asking the question, am I truly hungry? You go into the awareness stage. You step outside and you observe the situation. And then is it worth it? This is really, really important, is your motivators. A couple of years ago, because you guys have to remember, I've been working with bariatric patients for, I say over 10 years. I really need to stop and think, it's probably closer to 12 or 15 years now, but um uh I was working with a lady one time, and her goal, she was an older lady, so it wasn't like she was like, trying to like fit into like skinny jeans or wear lingerie or none of that stuff. It was all 100% health for her, and the reason she got surgery was she was a diabetic, and she had high blood pressure, and she wanted to get off of all her medication. So she did that in like the first 4 months. And so when she came to see me, uh, I'd say she probably had put on, because this was years ago, but she probably put on like 20 or 30 pounds, and she couldn't figure out why. And we went back to her motivators, and I said, well, why'd you have surgery to begin with? What was the point of losing weight? And she said, oh, because I didn't want to have high blood pressure and I wanted to be off my diabetes meds. And I said, oh, did you reach that? And she's like, and it was like a light bulb went off in her head. She's like, oh my gosh. Her motivators were gone. So it was like, and so she didn't have that focus anymore to keep staying focused. So for that session, we came up with, what's your new motivators? What's important to you? And that is huge. So you guys have to have, and write it down. If you guys don't have a list that you've wrote down, that I would say this is again training of the mind. If you don't get up in the morning and trigger yourself in some form or fashion to be different for the day, you're just going to repeat the cycle. So something very, very easily that takes 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, is to have this list. Have this list of motivators. And when you do your motivators, like right now, I want you guys, let's just do a little exercise here. I want you to close your eyes. Just take a few deep breaths. And I want you to imagine your number one motivator for why you had surgery, specifically, not to lose weight, unless it's like a specific size, maybe it's a specific poundage, but your number one motivator. And I want you to imagine that you've accomplished it. And I want you to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high. And I want you to tell me what that number was. You don't have to tell me what the motivator was. I just want to hear the number. What's the intensity of that motivator? We got 2 10s, an 8, an 8, 9.5. Awesome. Okay, so now 9. This is awesome. Now what I want you to do is I want you guys to close your eyes, and I want you to think of your number one go-to food when you're emotionally eating. I want you to see it. I want you to smell it. I want you to imagine eating it. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how intense is the enjoyment from that food? What feeling does it provide you? And I want you to tell me the number. Again, you don't have to tell me the food. I just want to hear the number that's attached to the food. Okay, so this is awesome. I want to go through and use you guys as an example. So where are we here? Okay, let me go back up. Let me catch myself. So Alicia, her motivator is an 8. Her motivator for change is an 8. Her feeling attached to food is a 10. This is huge. I don't want to scare you, Alicia. This tells you already. Now your food is going to win out. When we're unconscious, which is 95% of the time, remember I told you that million times stronger guy, it wins out. So you know right now, today, that your desire for food is stronger than your motivation for change. This is very, very common. So what does this tell you? You got to go deeper. So I would tell you specifically for you got to spend some time really, really digging deep on why you want to change. This is going to be crucial for you for long-term success. That's the number one thing you need to do. And anybody else who their food was stronger than their motivation for change, your number one goal is to create a motivation list that's more important for the food. Now, like you know how I said we're going to continue to go to I'm going to keep teaching you. There are some NLP techniques that I will be teaching in the future. They're a little bit more advanced. You know, it's for those of you that are going to keep being a part of these classes that I'm going to teach, it's going to be really important for you guys to do the work because it really is a training of the mind. And the some of the techniques I'm going to give you in the future, if you're not doing the exercises in between the months, you're not going to have the strength, the focus to be able to get results. So, but I will tell you in the future, Alicia, I am going to be giving techniques that can teach you how to have less desire for food and how to have more desire um, for the motivation. And actually, gosh, I just feel like there's so much I want to say, and I know our time is kind of coming up. So I'm not going to go through everybody, but again, that's for anybody that their desire for food is stronger than their desire for change, that motivator, we got to come up with a stronger motivation list. But even with that said, all of you, whatever motivation list you have, write them all down, you know, get as many as you can and spend 30 seconds to a minute. Have it right next to your bed where you close your eyes and you go through each one. Think about because there's a difference between thinking about it and experiencing what it provides you. See, that's the difference. You have to tap into how is this going to make my life better? When you really can feel the feelings that come along, the good feelings that come along with having your life be better, that's going to increase your motivation. So it's like, okay, I want to be under 200 pounds. I want to be able to ride on a roller coaster. I want to be able to shop at a regular store. I want to ride the airplane without having an extender. Those are the motivators, but what does that provide you? Take a moment in the morning to think about getting on an airplane and just sitting in a seat and actually buckling yourself. How does that make your life better? What feelings does that bring to you? You take 1 minute every single day in the morning to do that, you're going to be way more focused. You're going to have less emotional eating because this is strengthening the conscious mind. Bringing the conscious choices and creating and attaching it to feelings is how you make one way of how you make your conscious mind stronger, because now you're actually bridging a gap and putting that more into the subconscious. That's what you want, bridging the gap between the conscious and the subconscious. Um, so I want to see. So Teresa says, I just realized my motivation has been achieved. I don't have one anymore. Huge awareness, Teresa. That's awesome. Huge awareness. So if your motivator's gone, I'm going to bet your emotional eating has picked up, or you find you're not as focused. You absolutely have to have a motivator. And you know what? Your motivator might be to maintain. It's okay to redecide about what size you want to be. I worked with a lady one time, and I want to say maybe she was 55, 60, somewhere along that. And she had lost, I want to say like 150 pounds. I mean, it was definitely over 100. I can't remember now. And she had still like, she had this goal weight in her mind. And so, her diet was impeccable, and and she was over 2 years out, but she, as we work together, and I'm like, okay, your diet is absolute. I found one area that she could change. She was drinking 2 glasses of wine a night, and so one of the things is, a wine glass is huge. It's more than a glass of wine. And she was having 2 full glasses of wine a night. So it's more like 4 or 5 glasses. And she was doing that and still maintaining her weight loss, but she still had this 30 pounds she wanted to lose. And so, we went back to the motivators. Well, we went through all the reasons why she had surgery and all the benefits and all the reasons how it was going to change her life. And she realized, like Teresa just shared, that she had reached all of her goals. Because we were going, it was like we'd make these goals, and she wasn't changing. I said, well, you still can have 2 glasses of wine, but how about we do half a glass and half a glass? And, you know, just all these different things. And nothing, she was gung-ho, but then she wouldn't follow through. So then I said, let's really look at your motivators. And what she finally decided was she, all her real motivators of how her life was going to be better had already happened. And she realized that being 30 pounds smaller wasn't going to make her life better in any form or fashion. And so she decided to keep drinking the wine and maintain her weight. And and that's okay. You might sit here and be thinking, well, that's crazy. But we're not here to judge. The goal is for you as an individual to get out of life what you want. And I'm here to help you with that and not judge you of what's right and wrong for you. So if you're somebody like Teresa who's already reached some goals, you got to find new goals or new motivators. I'm sorry. You need to either find new motivators or you need to reassess your goals, which is important as well. All right. So let's see. Let's go back to the class. Let me look at what I got for time. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm already 20 minutes over. I'm so sorry. Gosh, I gotta get going. I feel bad that I'm not being mindful of the time. Okay, so we talked about why. So again, hopefully as we've been going through this, you're identifying feelings. It might be negative, it might be positive, but identifying any type of negative or, and kind of just look through this. And does any of these resonate with you? Frustration, sadness, shame, fear, grief, guilt, sadness, depression, despair, envy, doubt, jealousy. If any of those identify with you, just write them down for right now. Remember, a big part of today is awareness. And I'm really excited. A lot of you guys have become aware of just aware of things. That's step one, is why am I emotionally eating? Some of you are realizing it's because your motivation isn't strong enough. Some of you are realizing, it's because I've already reached my goal, my first goal. And so, but if any of this resonates with you, just write it down for right now. Okay, and I've already talked about thoughts drive feelings that drive behaviors. So you look at your behavior, it's the emotional eating. You have to go back to the thought feeling state. And I know I keep saying this over and over again, but it's really important, like I said, going back to when you label it. Um, like, and I have little names for myself. It sounds funny, but like I'll be like, okay, um instead of saying I'm being negative, like, because a lot of times you're in the feeling. So it's like you become, like I am. So you become the feeling. And so I'll say instead, like negative Nelly's coming out. And so again, what does that do? It sounds silly, but if you can come up with different labels for yourself or labels for the situation, it separates you from the feeling. You are not the feeling. For emotional eating, this is very, very important. Finding something, a label, a name that separates you. That's awareness is step one. Making a statement to separate you is step two. Very, very important. Okay, we've already went through this, just so kind of the top triggers are boredom, social, and under social could be stress is another big one. There's so many things that fall under stress. And I think a lot of you have already shared. So a lot of you guys have already went through this and have become aware. Now developing the skills. So number one thing is not having the skills to handle bad feelings. That's it. We were never taught. We were never taught on how to handle it. I mean, it's like a repetitive generation to generation. And especially in our society, we're supposed to be happy all the time. I see you guys, and lack of energy, being tired is a feeling. It's a feeling. And I see on you guys have just went through this major surgery, and this is going back to again, and realizing, even maybe walking away from this class and saying, you know what unreal, just in this journal or book you have, write unrealistic expectations. And what unrealistic expectations do you have on yourself you think are normal because everybody else is doing that? But you have to remember, the majority of our people are obese, and women are having more heart attacks than ever. And we just do not want to be the majority. We don't. So it's like, what unrealistic expectations do I have? Just become aware of that. Um, but it's the lack of skills to handle bad feelings. Going back to, I almost lost my train of thought there, sorry. But I see on Facebook all the time, I feel tired. I feel tired. I mean, it's like we want to like have this major surgery. We want to which is a top 10 stressor. Changing your eating habits is a top 10 stressor if it's a drastic change. So you have two things right there. So um oh my gosh, I'm going back and forth through all the different people. Gosh, I'm gonna hold on. I want to go back to I'm forgetting who I'm sharing about, and who shared it? I think it was Debbie, maybe. Um, Carol. I think it was Carol. Anyways, I'm sorry. Gosh, maybe I don't know. I can't remember. I apologize. But anyways, so people are having things. They okay. Number top 10 stressor surgery. Top 10 stressor drastically changing your eating. Top 10 stressor moving. Top 10 stressor death. Top 10 stressor changing jobs. So some of you, just in this little bit that I know about you, in this hour and a half we've been talking, who knows what else is going on? You've just identified you're in 5 or 6 of the top 10 stressors. It might even be 10. And you're wondering why you want to emotionally eat. I mean, part of it is stepping back and saying, wow, how many stressors do I have? And let's see here. So, and so sometimes feeling tired, you guys, this process of of being mindful, of being conscious, is stepping out and saying, you know what, this is really unrealistic. I'm going to go to bed. And I know the thought comes up like I have a gazillion things to do, or oh, I can't go to sleep. I have to help my kids with this, or I have to take my kids here, or I have to cook dinner. I have to. And it's like, no, just go to bed. Like listen to your body and rest. Take time out for yourself, even if it's 5 minutes. But another big thing, you guys, is to realize bad feelings are okay. We think we need to feel good all of the time. And it's a freak out session when things don't go right or we don't feel right. It is just a feeling. A feeling is what? A thought. Thoughts. Remember, thoughts create feelings that drive behaviors. And understanding too, eating is a temporary quick fix. So as you start to label, you say, oh, I'm being emotional right now, or my emotions are controlling me. Okay, it's driving me to want to eat a Twinkie. Okay, the Twinkie, is it worth it? Is it worth me not getting off my 10 medications? Is it worth me not riding on that roller coaster with my child and my grandchild? Is it worth me not having amazing sex? Is it worth me not going and shopping at Victoria's Secret or whatever? Whatever you guys all have tons of motivators. Whatever they are, is that Twinkie worth it? You start to step back and you say, and then you realize, if I do this, it's just a quick fix. It's amazing when you start to ask awareness questions, you start to put labels on things, it really helps you stay separate from the feeling long enough to make a decision. And those questions I just told you, asking yourself, is it worth it? When you but the key for that question to work is your motivators have to be stronger than your desire for food. So the person that their desire for food is stronger than their motivators, they're going to say, yeah, that Twinkie's damn worth it. I want that Twinkie. So your motivators have to be stronger. Alrighty. Let's see. I want to get to the tools real quick. Okay. So these are some things. So walking away today, I really, again, identifying your unrealistic expectations, identifying those external triggers, coming up with making some labels for yourself or some names that will help you stay out of it. And I'm giving you guys a lot, but if you walk away and just even do one thing, then that's awesome. And now there's, this is all skills. But to keep going, so realizing food is a temporary distraction, the very first easiest thing is to create other alternatives. So let's say your thing is boredom. Like somebody shared that she crochets. She needs to feel like she's being busy. She's doing something. Maybe the feeling is I have to be productive. I can't just sit and watch TV. It's really important for you to identify. You can't just say, oh, when I watch TV, I eat. Well, what's the feeling attached to it? It's very important to identify that. Is your feeling love time with your significant other at night? What are other ways we can get this love creation? Is it playing a game together, while we watch TV, doing a puzzle? Is it having hug and kissy time for 10 or 15 minutes and that you're going to get that. And a lot of times we don't learn to express ourselves, but we don't say what we really feel. We feel funny. But and this goes for guys too. It's like, I really need to connect with you. Practicing that with your significant other or even your children. I mean, I'm a single mom and I will say a lot of my triggers, like I get frustrated or angry because with kids and training, it's like an ongoing process. It was like, again, this Calgon take me away, and in the past I would eat a lot, but now I know, and I don't, and my daughter's a little bit older now, but even when she was 5, I would say I would lock myself in the bathroom for a minute. I'm not kidding you. I would just shut the door and say, mommy needs a minute. And now I can eat because she's older, she's 9, I can take 5 minutes. But I do that. I lock myself in the bathroom and I'm like, I need 5 minutes. Because if I don't give myself 5 minutes to go through all this stuff I'm teaching you, I'm going to eat. I'm going, and it might not be that day, but some of these things are day after day after day. Maybe you don't get enough hugs. So you got to say, you know what, I need a hug. I need to hold you for 5 minutes. Whatever. But step one is to identify the feelings. Step two is to come up with 4, 5, 6 non-food distractors. And you have to play with it. You might do some things and you might find out it's not enough. Um, this is really, really important. Sit with the feeling. And I'd actually like to do that right now. So wherever you guys are, and we're almost done. If you guys can give me 5 more minutes, and I do apologize for going over. But I'd like you guys just to close your eyes, and I want you to think about one of these negative or bad feelings that you've identified during this class, or maybe you've already known, that triggers you to eat. Put yourself in that situation. Is it feeling depressed? Is it feeling lonely? Is it feeling bored? But I just want you to take a minute to recreate that. Think about the last time you felt that way and go and put yourself in that situation. Once you have it, what I want you to do is I want you to pay attention to where it is. Where is it in your body? Is it in your head? Is it your entire body? Do you notice it in your chest cavity, your solar plexus? Just identify, where is the feeling? Now ask yourself, how intense is it on a scale of 1 to 10? Do you notice anything about the feeling? Does it have a color? Does it have a density to it? Is it like fog, or is it dense like a baseball? And this is, you obviously you can do this all in your mind. I want you to say, just say in your mind to this feeling that you've identified, what do you want to tell me? Something may come back or may not. What would you like to tell me? And the last thing is, what can I do right now to lessen this feeling? Ask it, what can I do right now to lessen this feeling? But you're asking the feeling. And again, just whatever awareness comes up. Okay. And you guys can just slowly come back to the present, open up your eyes, and then go ahead and write down any awarenesses you might have. Some of this, you guys, you might have struggled doing. If you have never done any form of meditation, um, that might have been really difficult. Some people have a hard time even closing their eyes. I don't know where you guys are at, but what I just, that practice we just went through is huge. You can learn so much about yourself by doing that. It might seem silly or funny, but you're going to learn about what you need from you. So what I just did there is and it was really quick. I mean, in a real practice, which I'm going to go deeper and do more. I'm trying to rush right now, which is not really good for meditation. Um, is that process is you tapping into your subconscious mind, your that part of you that's a million times stronger. And the more you do that, you bridge the gap. You know how I said the battles between the conscious and the subconscious? There's two things you can do. You can lessen the voice of the subconscious and make the conscious stronger, which these tools are going to do that. But you also can bridge the gap. So that this technique I just did is you're bridging the gap between the conscious and the subconscious. You're building a friendship, connecting what you want with listening. It's almost like, think of your feelings. Basically, your feelings are just thoughts that create this intense blocked energy. It's blocked energy within you. And think of it like a friend that's frustrated at you or somebody who's not being heard. As soon as they're heard, they feel better. As soon as you listen to them, they feel better. Well, it's the same. That's what happens to your feelings. A lot of times you just paying attention to one, by me asking the questions and you training yourself to ask the questions about separating from the feeling. Where is it in your body? What color is it? How intense is it? All of that are techniques to separate you from the feeling. If you are separate from your feeling, it can't control you. So all those questions have a specific purpose to do that. And then the next thing is, once you've separated from it, the awareness is for it to dissipate. How can this energy dissipate and go out my body? That's what you're wanting with a feeling. So you can learn a lot. So sitting with negative feelings and realizing, like, okay, it's just a ball of energy created by my thoughts. This will really help you. I'd encourage you to do that. And then these are just 3 things you can do. And then quieting the mind. So this again is a practice. I would start with 1 minute, but I'm going to do a quick exercise with you guys again just for 1 minute, and then we're going to be done. So again, I want you guys to close your eyes. I'm going to put on a little bit of music here. And I want you just to begin to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. You're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. All of your focus is on my voice and your breathing. As you inhale, you're breathing in peace. As you exhale, you're exhaling stress. As you inhale, you're bringing in peace. As you exhale, you're exhaling stress. With every exhale, you feel yourself getting lighter and lighter. Just feel the stress releasing from your body. Now I want you to bring all of your attention to your breath. I want you to inhale for a count of 5. We're going to hold for a count of 10. And we're going to exhale for a count of 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling out the mouth. Inhaling peace, exhaling stress. You guys can slowly open your eyes. That was a little over a minute, you guys. Putting your phone on, again, this is a training of the mind. So we're going to go into this in more detail in the next class. My goal for this class was to start having awarenesses of why you do what you do, and I wanted you to walk away with some tools you could use. So that was my goal for today. But so all these thoughts and feelings that are scattered, I a lot of times call them my mind monkeys. It's in your prefrontal cortex, and meditation by far is the strongest thing to quiet that. And so in this 1 minute, and be mindful not to judge yourself. How quickly did your mind wander? So you might think, gosh, a breathing exercise seems so simple. But in a breathing exercise, it's like, for 1 minute, can you stay focused? When I first started doing this, I was like a ping pong ball. Sometimes then the ball would get lost and never come back to the breathing until my timer went off. It takes practice. So you have to think, if I can focus my mind, I can train my mind to focus on my breath for 1 minute without distraction. The thought is, oh, I gotta go. I gotta cook breakfast. I gotta make lunch. I gotta go do this. Whatever. This is stupid. Whatever. All these thoughts come in. Regardless of what the thought is, like maybe the thought is, this is stupid. Guess what? Your subconscious mind just took over. You are no longer conscious. You are no longer in control of the situation. You, the conscious mind. You have to realize there's two parts of you. There's the unconscious person, but that's not the person you want to be anymore. You're trying to create a new person. That's the consciousness in you. So that's just a thought feeling. This is stupid, or I don't have time. Those are thought feeling states. They're not necessarily real. So when you have that, you have to bring it back to you have to say, okay, I had that thought, let it go away. This is stupid. Okay, let it float away, go back to the breath. Something else comes up. Oh my gosh, I'm hungry. Okay, let it go, come back to the breath. The quicker you can come back to the breath, and the longer you can stay focused, guess what happens? That translates into the thought that says, I want a cookie. The subconscious mind says, I want a cookie, just like the thought, this is stupid. That's the subconscious mind. You now are strengthening your mind to say, you let it float away. Okay, I want a cookie. Bam, the conscious mind comes right back in. So I would start with 1 minute if you can do it every day. I gave you guys a lot of information today, and like I said, I am going to be building on this, but if you do want to be a part of the series, like you can come all the time, but I am going to start advancing. The tools I'm going to give you are going to build on each other. So in the future, as I teach, if you're not practicing what I'm doing now, if you don't do this from month to month, um, you're not going to have the ability to focus and you won't get the results. You'll be like, oh, this doesn't work for me. So it's going to be really important for you to put these things into practice. So that's it, you guys. I am going to stay and answer any questions, but I do know I went way over. For all of you that stayed on the call, thank you. I apologize for going over. Um, let's see. Um, so let's see. Let's see. For the bully concept rings true for me. Yeah, so as you guys get off, I just want to kind of go back through this and see. High blood pressure. Hopefully this was helpful, you guys. Great, I'm glad, you guys. And if for any of you guys too, remember, if you have any questions, because right now I am going to just do it once a month. In some point I do want to do like a 6 or 8 week emotional eating class where we're working together each week. But that's, but this is what I'm going to start with. So if you have any questions, as you work through some of these tools, feel free to email me or ask me questions on Facebook, or call me. Yeah, so this is being recorded, you guys, and it will be